Is Mr.Peepers, based on the true story told by Susan Master. Mother, father, and Addie make 3. Together, they are the Count family. They work on the farm, always so much to do. If you lived there as well, there'd be work for you, too. It was Saturday. All work was done. The family looked forward to having some fun when all of a sudden, there was so much ado in the hen house this morn. For a brood of 6 baby chicks had been born. Mama kept counting her eggs as they hatched, but the number of eggs and chicks never had matched. Addie came along and counted the tribe. There were not 6, but only 5. Addie had watched as quiet as a mouse and noticed that one chick had left the hen house. The chick scratched the dirt and cuddled up tight near the farmhouse door where he stayed for the night. Addie thought of a great little plan.
I want this chick to live in the house, if he can.
She begged her parents.
May I please keep this one?
With that, the saga of Mr. Peepers had begun. That night, Addie laid in bed trying to sleep, but all that she heard was beep, 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 beep. She searched and searched around her bed and spied in her doll cradle one fuzzy head. She tossed and turned, and still he chirped, beep, 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 beep. Then she rocked her old cradle, and finally it worked.
Mr. Peepers,
she thought,
is a name I shall keep.
Then she too closed her eyes and was soon fast asleep. After time, Mr. Peepers' downy fuzz turned to feathers instead, and he searched the house to see where doors led. The best was the den, where they gathered to see their favorite shows on the family TV. On the back of the sofa, he perched patiently. He truly felt part of the Count family.
Oh my gosh, I love this show.
Oh, that's pretty good.
In the early morning, Mr. Count was awake. He ate his breakfast, then he went to take a ride in the truck, and the dogs jumped right in. But this is where the disagreement begins. Mr. Peepers also was ready to go, go, go. But Mr. Count said firmly,
No, no, no.
Then the rooster flew back in the cab and sat. Mr. Count put him back on the fence quick as that. This happened not once, but 4 times. Good luck. Finally, Mr. Count let Mr. Peepers stay in the truck. Mr. Peepers got to see the chores. There was always so much to do. Milking the cows, feeding the ducks, and giving the horse a new shoe. The barn was painted. The pond was cleaned. They had to plant the next crop. Mr. Peepers could see that the family had work that would never stop. At the house, Mrs. Count was very busy. To keep the house clean is not so easy. To live with a growing rooster is hard. Mr. Peepers belongs out in the yard. When Addie came home from school that day, she listened to what her mom had to say. Addie saw Mom's face scrunched up tight, and she knew that her mind was made up. She was right. Addie told Mr. Peepers,
Mr. Peepers, you must find your way. Out in the farmyard is where you'll now stay. You're growing, you're strong, and a rooster you'll be. But you'll always be a part of our count family.
Mr. Peepers seemed to be so mixed up and wrong, he would ask.
Where do I belong?
He spied the dogs, Jasper and Josephine too. They both barked when he came into view. Under the front porch, he stayed with the dogs for just a short stretch. For roosters aren't good at a dog's game of fetch. Mr. Peepers went to the ducks at the pond down the lane.
Come swim with us,
Quacked Lucy as he came. Mr. Peepers followed the ducks and stepped into the muck. But the more he struggled, the more he got stuck. When the ducks saw what happened, they flapped their wings hard and saved him from drowning. Then he walked back to the yard.
I have learned a lesson with much needed luck. Though I do have feathers, I can't be a duck.
Mr. Peepers arrived where the cows munched on grass. The hungry cows parted so Mr. Peepers could pass.
With their size and their might, they do not look like me.
No, I'm not a cow. But what else could I be?
Entering the stable brought hellos and neighs. Mr. Peepers saw the horses from the truck on most days. Mr. Peepers tried to swish his tail like the horse, but the flies never bothered Mr. Peepers, of course. Sammy the spider lived all alone, curled up so tight with a web for his home. Mr. Peepers kept watching him way overhead.
To hang from a web was not my idea of bed.
Some sheep were woolly and fluffy and white, while others were skinny and bare. Quite a sight. Mr. Peepers looked over his feathers and knew
Sheep are my friends, but shearing won't do.
Mr. Peepers spied Molly, the cheese-loving mouse.
Bonjour, come visit my house.
Said Molly. And Mr. Peepers tried to push and pull himself to peek inside. Then Mr. Peepers thought,
No, I'm not a mouse. I'm on a journey to find my own house.
Mr. Peepers walked onto the messy pigsty. The pigs were playing there. He couldn't see why. The pig's home was dirty. He was bothered by that. He thought,
I'll keep on walking to visit Charlie, the cat.
Charlie the cat was cleaning himself. He perched in the barn on a high wooden shelf.
Hello, Mr. Peepers. How are you today? Are you still out searching? Have you found your way?
I'm still on my search, and I will try to find my home.
He said with a cry. It was then that he saw it. He squinted his eyes. It looked like the sun fell down from the skies. With the brightest of yellows, a chicken coop, brand new, was standing before him. What a marvelous view. He walked on closer and opened the door. First thing he saw was straw on the floor. Above him, the hens, all nodding their heads, were laying their eggs in their straw-laden beds. His feathers were full grown from his feet to his head. He sure looked like a Rhode Island red.
I've been searching and searching since I don't know when. Could this be my home?
He asked Penny the hen. Penny stretched out her wing and nudged him to see that she welcomed him home to a new family. He took a big breath, He puffed out his chest, for he knew this place was simply the best. With hide and hair and feathers to wear, friends of his were everywhere. Now Mr. Peepers guards the hen house with glee, as father of his own family. He still has friends of every size. They're well aware he'll always rise to greet the sun with his daily clue of his own version of cock-a-doodle-doo.